You are listening to the Keep the Weight Off podcast with Dr. Angela
and Marshall,
episode number 118.
Welcome to the Keep the Weight Off podcast, where we bust all the dieting myths and discover not just how to lose weight, but more importantly, how to keep it off. We go way beyond the food, and we use science and psychology to give you strategies that work. And now your host, Dr. Angela Zechmann.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the podcast this week. Marshall, how are you doing? I heard a rumor that you're off on vacation.
I'm officially on vacation right now.
You're on vacation.
Feels good.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, you're not on vacation because you're still working, but you are off on vacation.
Right. This doesn't feel like work.
Oh, okay, great. So what do you do? What are you up to? I'm excited to live vicariously through you.
Yeah. So what's really cool is there's a big festival going on in our town right now. And so that kind of kicked it off. There was fireworks last night. And
Really?
it was really neat. It's called the Forest Festival. And so we live in a small town, it's a logging town and this is a big to do. They do it every year, and they just went really all the way with it this year. I mean, this is just wonderful booths. Everybody's art is downtown and they're selling their stuff, and ran into a few people that I know from
that's wonderful
from the clinic. It was pretty neat. Yeah. Yeah. And so so we got to kick that off last night, but we are actually headed to California. We're going to Disneyland.
Disneyland.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I haven't been in so long. It's going to be a completely different place to me. So,
yeah. I haven't been there either. A couple of decades, maybe, seems like.
Huh. Yeah. And it's the 100th year anniversary. So it's a special year.
And it's you and your husband going?
Just us. Just
the
us. Yep.
Oh,
boys, they can take themselves. They're old enough.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the question then. How are you going to manage your food while you're in Disneyland? Because that place is full of crap food. What are you going to do?
Okay. So what we're going to do is since it's, we're adults and we're going, we planned to, we made reservations at restaurants in Disneyland. I wasn't really aware that there were so many restaurants in Disneyland, but there are. So instead of, getting hungry and desperate and stopping by, the little fast foody type of, snacky stuff, we're just going to eat meals. And we're just going to eat at the restaurant so that we have more options. And we've already pre-looked at some of the menus, so we kind of know, where we wanted to go, because all of them, they have different specialties that they serve. So, so it's been neat.
So those of you who are listening to this podcast, take note of Marshall's strategy for how to manage theme parks, because
it's weird. It doesn't even really feel like I planned it though, because, now that I've been doing this long enough, it kind of just comes naturally to do this. So it does get easier. It gets easier because my last year when I went on vacation, or actually not last year, I think it was the year before when we went to Mexico. I mean, I just didn't have a great plan, and it didn't come naturally. And I ended up had great intentions going in, but you and we've done a podcast about it. I had some trouble, and then had some trouble once I got getting back on track. So, so this time I just don't want to deal with the mess of having to come back and, fight all the urges. I hate that. So I'd rather just do it this way, be mindful, eat solid meals, not snacking in between, bringing my own water, and enjoying enjoying the atmosphere around me instead of focusing on food.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Super good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I wanted to talk today about dieting and the mindset and language that's going to be helpful to you, our listener, as you're working at developing new habits that will last a lifetime. Okay. So this was spurred actually by a conversation that I had with our receptionist, Tracy, who was talking to a gentleman on the phone. She was telling me about this. And this guy was super excited to get started with us because his wife was getting started, and he'd actually sat down and watched the new patient videos. So anybody who comes into our clinic, they watch a series of 3 videos. They're each about half an hour long, and they can't come to our clinic until we get a notification that they've watched the videos.
Yeah.
So we're pretty strict about it. It's like, okay. And so he had watched the videos with her and he thought, wow, this is amazing. I want to do this too. And I just want to interject something for those of you who are listening who don't live in Washington State and you don't have the opportunity to become one of our patients. I have developed a 70-minute mini workshop. Okay. So what this is the new patient class that we have all of our patients watch is all of that information that you are going to need, even though you're not going to be a patient. All of the information that will be so helpful to you as you're getting started in your weight loss journey is in this workshop. And the workshop is called How to Get Rid of Belly Fat. So I explain to you exactly what belly fat is and why it's so important to get rid of it. And I explain all about the disease of obesity and how to get it under control. And so I just want you guys to know, if you're interested, just go to JourneyBeyondWeightLoss.com. Wait until after you're done listening to this podcast, though. Go to JourneyBeyondWeightLoss.com and you're going to see a tab at the top that says Banish Belly Fat Workshop. And that is what you click so that you can get access to this workshop. It's really, really enlightening information. And most people who watch it just say, wow, I've heard bits and pieces of this stuff over the years, but nobody's ever explained it quite like this. It's so clear, it's so obvious, and now I really get it. So I just wanted to let you know that. But let's go back now to Tracy. And so Tracy was talking to this new patient. He was super excited to get started. And Tracy was saying, yeah, we have quite a few couples that we work with, and they always do well because they're working together. And so if one person wants to cheat, the other person can keep them on track. And that's when I thought, aha, we need to do a podcast on dieting and diet language, because that word cheat is definitely part of the diet mentality. So think about it. And Marshall, when you use the word cheat or hear the word cheat when it comes to food, what do you think of?
So I would feel like I was doing something bad, like I'm doing something wrong by, using the word cheat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's a lot of judgment about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and so I remember decades ago, I was on this very specific diet. I think I've talked about it before. It was called Body for Life. And the guy who designed it, his name was Bill Phillips. And he had this whole program going. And he said that on Sundays, you got to rest, which means you didn't have to go work out, and you could have a cheat meal. And he may have actually used the word free meal. I can't remember. But the idea was that you could let all the restrictions go and just eat whatever you wanted. So being the incredible sugar and flour addict that I am, I used that cheat meal to eat spaghetti and garlic bread. And then I'd have some sort of dessert and just all kinds of stuff that I would never allow myself to have during the week. And then, of course, that would trigger my brain into massive cravings. And I'd have a few days of hell trying to restrict myself from eating those foods and trying to stick to my diet. And it was actually like a living hell because I was in this mindset where I was restricting myself and trying to keep myself under control all the time. And then once in a while, I'd have these binges. And it was like once I got into the bread and the sugar or the baked goods or whatever it was really, really hard to stop. Now, Marshall, I know you've experienced that before.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was just, I'm more than once.
Oh yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah. It's miserable.
It's really miserable. So when we're dieting, we end up in this restrictive mindset. And some people can hang on for months or perhaps even a year or longer, restricting themselves like this. And then when they finally stop the restrictions, all hell breaks loose. It's like a beach ball that you've been holding under the water. And finally you get weak, like you don't have any more strength to hold that dang beach ball down. And you let go and up it pops. And then there's no stopping that momentum. right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Definitely. And we have so many people that come into the clinic and they talk about this too. Like, I had lost
Yeah.
60 pounds and then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. I gained it all right back and then some. And
Uh-huh.
they don't understand what happened. And that's happened
Yeah.
even to myself, in the
Yeah.
past. So
Yeah.
it's
So
it's miserable.
you're in this super restrictive mindset, like you're just gonna like deny yourself, deny yourself, deny yourself, deny yourself until you hit this certain goal weight. And then hopefully, it's like you just don't even think about what's going to happen after you hit your goal weight. And then you've been restricting yourself for so long, up pops the beach ball, and then you're done. So people use all kinds of words when they're in this restrictive mindset. And I want each one of you listening to just listen for these words to see if you ever use them. So obviously the first one is the word cheat. So many negative connotations to that word. So I don't like to use the word cheat. I prefer to use the word splurge. So a splurge is something you've planned at least 24 hours ahead. So, like, let's say it's your birthday, or there's an anniversary, or a holiday, or some special occasion, and you decide you want to have a piece of cake, or a glass of champagne, or something like that. You make the choice deliberately to have a splurge. So some people will call this a joy eat. I like to call it a splurge. It's planned. So like we were talking before we got started recording, Marshall, you were a little bit concerned that you might have something trigger you while you were at
Right.
Disneyland, even though you had
Yeah.
all of these meals planned. And what I would recommend is if you see something that you're like, wow, I'd really like to have some of that, have a splurge, but wait until the end of your trip to have the splurge. And
Oh, that's a great idea.
why would I say wait until the end? Well, because what's going to happen is once you have that splurge, you have to recognize your brain's going to want more. Okay. So the next day you're going to want more. And so it's super important that once you have that splurge, that you make sure that you don't have leftovers around, or like if you're on a vacation, you don't have access to the stuff. So if you go to Disneyland and you have your splurge on the first day, and let's say you go get an ice cream cone or whatever it might be, then the next day you're going to want an ice cream cone. The next day you're going to want, and it's just going to be like all hell breaks loose. So that's why I recommend be very deliberate about your splurge and wait until the end of your trip. So, because you have to plan ahead for the days afterwards, after the splurge. Okay.
This is true.
So you have your splurge, absolutely not a problem. But just remember, if you're blessed with a sensitive brain like I am, you're going to want to plan ahead for the days afterwards, where you're going to have the cravings, and make sure there are no leftovers around. Make sure you're not in the same environment. Make sure that you're protecting yourself from the cravings. And sometimes you might decide that the splurge isn't worth it. Like I really do have this incredibly sensitive brain, and I just don't want to deal with cravings. And so I'm not going to splurge. That's a decision that I've made on a few occasions too. So just be mindful of what can happen with a splurge. Now, what happens if you didn't plan it ahead of time? So let's say that you just found yourself eating something, you didn't plan it ahead. That's what I call a slip. Okay, so what's happening is you've slipped into some old habits. Old brain pathways got triggered somehow. And this is bound to happen. This is not something you should ever feel badly about. It's pretty normal. It's to be expected. And I actually love helping people through slips, because if you know what to do when you slip, you can really evolve yourself and you learn so much about yourself. And by the way, this is one of the things that I teach you inside the Empowered Weight Loss membership, how to use your slips to learn more about yourself and to evolve. And this is why I always say the journey to lasting weight loss is a journey of profound personal evolution, because slips will help you learn so much. Okay. So try not ever to use the word cheat. Ask yourself, did I plan it ahead 24 hours in advance? In that case, it's a splurge. Is it something that I just got into because an old brain pathway got triggered? That is a slip. Make sense?
Yes. I was just thinking, like I still struggle with this diet language.
Yeah.
Every once in a while it comes out. I find myself doing it.
Yeah.
The place I'm at with my journey is, I'm in a pretty good place,
Yeah.
with, my weight.
Uh-huh.
But that voice talks to me all the time saying, you're good. You can have that.
Yeah.
You're fine. You can have a little of this, nothing's going to happen. And
Yeah.
so, once I got to that place, where I started feeling comfortable, that
Mm-hmm.
voice just like started to come up, and then the diet
Mm-hmm.
mentality starts to come into play. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's just, yeah. So like you said, with each slip or with each experience, you learn a whole lot about yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's a
Yeah.
journey, it
Yeah.
changes and evolves.
Sometimes people will say that I was good or I was bad. So that's the
Hmm.
language of judgment or self-judgment. That's definitely diet mentality. So, or sometimes people will think, I did I did really good exercise, therefore I get to have something special. So those are the kinds of things people will say. Sometimes people will say, I'm on plan or I'm on program. I hear this a lot from our patients. This is definitely diet language. So be careful and watch for that. Sometimes people will say, like, I went out to eat and I just had a salad. Like having a salad is some sort of deprivation.
Yeah,
so,
you're right.
so watch for that. Sometimes people will say, I can't have that, or I went
Oh,
someplace and
right.
or they're looking at a menu and they're thinking, what can I have? Okay. This is the language of disempowerment. And like someone else is giving you rules and you're following the rules. Right.
Right.
So that's definite diet language. So sometimes people will say, like, I want to lose weight for my daughter's wedding, or I have a class reunion coming up, or I'm trying to get in shape for my vacation, or I call that dieting
Oh,
for a
yeah. This
deadline.
is the one that I really struggle with.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one gets me is whenever I have some kind of vacation or some kind of, thing coming up.
Yep.
That's when, I want to kick it into gear. And then
Yep.
once that vacation, comes around, then all of a sudden, it's like that voice in
Yeah.
my head is like, oh, you can have what you want now because you made it. So
Yep.
it's just
Yeah.
it's so hard to be, you have to be aware of it, but it's so hard to recognize it, when it's happening but
Mm-hmm.
later on, you're like, wait a minute, that wasn't okay.
Yeah. So it's a super easy trap to fall into.
Yeah, it is.
I,
It is.
I remember one time I did a figure competition, and wow, was that ever the epitome of dieting for a deadline.
Oh man,
Like,
I bet.
that's one of the most unhealthy things I've ever done.
Oh my gosh, I
Pure
couldn't even imagine.
restriction, 13
Yeah.
weeks of pure restriction
Ah,
just for a day on the stage. I will never,
ah,
ever do that again. It was so unhealthy. Oh my God.
ah.
So, and then of course, once it was over, what do you suppose I did? I ate everything
Yeah,
in
right.
sight. Yeah. And
Right,
I had
right.
actually starved my body. And so my brain was like, the famine is now over. So let's eat
Mm-hmm.
everything. And weight came on really, really, really fast. I was
Oh, it
really
does. I
shocked.
know.
Yeah. So watch for that kind of mentality. The other thing you want to watch for is this idea of trading exercise for food treats. So
Oh
uh,
yeah.
sometimes
I've heard people doing this a lot.
they
We talk
do.
about
So,
it. Yeah, we talk about it at
so
the clinic with patients a lot.
yeah. So sometimes people will notice, like they're on a cardio machine or something, and they're like, "Wow, I just burned 300 calories. Now I can have a treat." And this thinking is perpetuated by all the fitness apps that are out there, and it just drives me absolutely insane. So here's what I want you to understand. Exercise is not for burning calories. You exercise because it feels good and because you want to develop cardiovascular stamina and you want to keep your muscle strength and your balance and you want to feel good. Exercise really helps to prevent depression and that sort of things. Exercise is really, really important, but do it for your physical and mental health and not for burning calories. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, it's been so ingrained like into my brain, this diet language and diet
I know.
mentality and,
Yeah.
just the whole dieting, situation. So I have to
Yeah.
be really mindful about when I'm talking to myself, like not using the language because
Hmm.
it just comes so naturally. So
Hmm.
it is a change in the way that you think and it takes a while to,
Yeah.
to change that. But yeah, these are really great
Yeah.
ideas. So
Yeah. We'll post the link to this podcast in Sugar and Flour Busters Society on Facebook. And any of you who listen to this podcast and you think of new diet language that I didn't mention, I'd be curious to hear other types of things that people say when they're in that restrictive mentality. So that would be really cool if you can go to the Sugar and Flour Busters Society and post under the podcast link.
yeah,
So the next question becomes, what would be a more helpful mindset to adopt if I want lasting weight loss and I want to stop dieting and I want to stop all of this diet mentality? So I want to explain how I think about this. I find that personally, I really benefit from thinking about processed food in the same way that I think about cigarettes. So we've talked a little bit about this before. We all know smoking is deadly. And what I want everyone to know is that processed food like donuts and crackers and cookies and cakes and candy and ice cream and bread and pasta and chips and bagels and energy drinks and sodas and sugary coffee drinks, and I can go on and on. All this stuff is just as deadly, if not more deadly, than cigarettes. It's causing obesity, it's causing diabetes, it's causing heart attacks, it's causing strokes, it's causing cancer, and a myriad of other diseases. More diseases than cigarettes, and it's at least as addictive, if not more addictive than cigarettes. And actually, sugar has been found to be 8 times more addictive than cocaine. So I like to think that most people are on a diet. They're on the standard American diet, SAD. Get it? SAD? The SAD
hmm
diet. You could also call it the global industrialized diet because these foods have now been exported all over the world. And we now have a worldwide epidemic of obesity and diabetes. Never in our human history have we ever had an epidemic like this. So, when you are learning to eat normal, unprocessed food, do not think of this as a diet. Think of this as you learning how to be a vibrant, healthy person and take care of your body in a society that has no idea how to do anything other than binge or restrict. Okay. You're going to slip, no question. And you may have times where you decide you want to splurge on a high dopamine producing food like cake. But for the most part, you want to think of yourself as someone who nourishes your body well and does not use processed food for entertainment or for soothing negative emotions or for getting yourself through a bad day. So you don't ever want to diet again. You're just going to learn how to eat normal food in normal amounts and nourish your body well. Now, when you adopt this mindset, you're definitely going to stand out as an enigma in this society because you'll be someone who, no matter what's going on around you and no matter what's being offered to you, you'll make the right choices. None of this thinking, well, I was really good at that party or I stayed on plan, right? You can watch
right,
someone eating a donut and it's as if they're smoking and you don't feel deprived in the least. Former smokers can watch other people smoke and say, absolutely, no thanks. I'm not going back there without feeling deprived of cigarettes. And so that's the mindset that you want to develop. And that's how you want to be thinking about processed food. You're not going to deprive yourself of a Big Mac because you're on a diet. You're not going to tell yourself you can't have a Big Mac. Of course you can have a Big Mac, but you're like, no thanks. I can't stand the idea of poisoning myself with that junk. It's disgusting. I'm not going to do it. That's how I approach this and how I think about processed food. Does that make sense?
yeah, yes, I know you do.
So doesn't matter where I am, it doesn't matter where I go. I'm going to make the right choices, except if I decide on a special occasion that I want to splurge. Right?
right,
Yeah. So
this
does
all
that make
sounds good.
yeah. So like do you think that's possible to do that?
Oh, it's possible. I think it takes practice.
Yeah.
Because like with me, it's taking, I'm still, like I said, it's still a journey.
Yeah.
Because like, going on this vacation, I know what's happened in my past vacations.
Yeah.
So, but like we're saying, if I decide to splurge, I'm going to do it on the last day, like you said.
Yeah.
And, that's great. That's actually great information. I didn't even think
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
But, but otherwise, it's just, getting through these challenges and, not using the diet mentality. It's challenging, but it is possible.
Yeah. I just want everyone to recognize, like, we have like a band during the summertime. There's a marina near us, and they have nights where every Friday night they'll have a band come and play during the summertime. It's really fun. And so we were there on Friday night, and we were just enjoying the music, and there's all ages of people there. Like, you got grandparents, you got little kids, and I was noticing that the little kids are walking around with ice cream cones, Pringles, cookies, candy bars, and I'm just like, oh my God. like,
Right.
like we wouldn't give them cigarettes. Why are we doing this to our poor children? It's just so you're just, when you start really noticing what's going on in this country and how the food industry is benefiting, and you start saying to yourself, no thanks, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. And I'm not going to restrict myself from this stuff. I'm going to say no thanks because I recognize that this stuff is toxic. Okay. So I'd encourage everyone to watch for diet language at all times. Discover how you're thinking about this. Do your best to work at recognizing that just because everyone else is doing it, that doesn't mean it's good for you. And see what you can do to develop a mindset of a vibrant, healthy person who nourishes your body well because you want to, and not because you're on some sort of crazy diet. Okay?
Right.
Yeah. And
Great.
if you want help, and if you want a community of people who are going to support you in this, join us in Empowered Weight Loss. Okay? So just go to journeybeyondweightloss.com/yes, and you can join us right away. That's all for this week. Marshall, have a great vacation. Take care, and we'll see all of you next week. Bye now.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Hey, if you really want to lose weight and keep it off for good, your next step is to sign up for Dr. Angela's free weight loss course, where you're going to learn everything you need to get started on your weight loss journey the right way. Just head over to journeybeyondweightloss.com/free course to sign up. Also, it would be awesome if you could take a few moments and write a review on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you in Journey Beyond Weight Loss.